Good morning. Is that too loud? Let's see. Can you hear me? Yeah. So, as John mentioned, I am Neeraj Bharadwaj. I'm the MD of Accel India Growth, which is a private equity fund focused on growth investing in technology, media, and telecom. But I'm not here to talk about private equity, and I won't bore you with that topic. Firstly, thank you for all attending. I heard when Michael Dell was here, 17 people showed up. And so with our YGL group, we've got a full house. So I think there's a very high bar on the content which we have to deliver on. Subsequent to that, we've actually built out a larger board. Day before yesterday, we announced that Vishwanath Anand has joined our board. Leander Paes is on our board. We've got Neeraj Bajaj from the Bajaj Group, who's actually, in addition to being a businessman, actually was a 4-time national table tennis champion who's also joined our board. So we've got a group of very influential individuals involved with this initiative. The focus is on finding athletes in India. So we actually spend a lot of time on groundbreaking research and in-depth research trying to identify athletes in our disciplines. So we sponsor athletes in weightlifting, in athletics, in shooting, in archery, and in badminton. Those are the disciplines we're focused on right now. And we spend a lot of time trying to identify athletes in India who have potential to be of world standard and actually be number one in the world, just not be someone who's competing on a world level. Once we've identified the athletes, we actually identify what the gap is in their performance versus world-class standards. And this comes down to, it could be the situation where they need an international coach. It could be a situation where they need to go abroad for more competitions. In certain cases, it's just getting them access to better nutrition or better sports training equipment. And so there's a range of things which we focus on in terms of improving the performance of the athlete. And then lastly, we actually track whether these athletes are improving their performance over time or not. And if they're not, we actually cut off the funding and then try to find new athletes. The success to date is we've funded about 40 athletes. The more prominent ones which you would have heard about, one is Gagan Narang, who's a world record holder in the 10-meter air rifle competition, is actually currently ranked number 2 in the world. We have sponsored Saina Nehwal, who obviously many of you know from badminton. In her specific situation, we actually got her a full-time physio and also got her access to mental conditioning. She was very strong physically, but just sort of taking the game to the next level and dealing with those pressures required a coach. With Gagan, who I mentioned earlier, we actually sponsored him for competitions in Germany, which are regarded as best in class. We've sponsored a boxer by the name of MC Mary Kom, who's actually a 4-time world champion. Not many people know about her, and I think that's a tragedy in this country. It's a story which is very inspirational. Someone who's come from a low-income background, actually won 3 world championships, then took some time off to have twins and has actually come back and competed again and won. So we sponsored her. We've sponsored all the athletes from PT Usha School of Athletics, including a person by the name of Tintu Luka, who's currently competing the juniors, but her time, her personal best is actually currently number 10 in the world for 800 meters across competitions. Someone we're very hopeful of and in terms of winning a gold medal either for the coming Olympics or the next one after that. And my role in this, when I joined this initiative, I met Geet Sethi in a by chance meeting. I'm very passionate about sports. I was never good enough to play myself, but I've always, through affiliation with athletes, tried to improve my self-esteem. And this was a situation where I felt that I could continue on that endeavor. But I've really helped them with fundraising. I've helped them professionalize the organization. If you're trying to raise money for a nonprofit, people want to make sure you're a scalable organization, as well as having reputed people behind that. So I've helped them in that endeavor. And then finally really helping them think big in this initiative. I mean, we should be aspiring to win 25 gold medals in the next 10 years, not just be happy with 1 or 2 medals and get a kick out of that. So that's been my involvement there. It's very early days for the organization, but we feel out of the 40 athletes we've funded, about 7 are medal contenders for 2012, which is significant given if you think about where we have been historically. So that's one initiative, and I'll talk about takeaways later. The other initiative is the Indian School of Business, which I can give you the early insight on how this started. I have spent 83% of my working career being involved with the Indian School of Business. I got roped into this when I was at McKinsey as a first-time manager by Rajat Gupta. who said, listen, we need to build a world-class school in India. Why don't you go think about it? And this is the head of the firm coming to you, and I was a first-time manager, so obviously I sort of quaked and I trembled when he came to me. And I looked up all the McKinsey research, and McKinsey, the way you go about an engagement is there are these things called practice documents, which are stored away, which have a lot of the state-of-the-art thinking on what you need to do with the client in a new engagement. Unfortunately, we hadn't really built a business school, and so there was no thinking to look at. So anyway, I took my, in those days, McKinsey didn't use PowerPoint. There was something called Solo. So I took this Solo thing. I built a great chart which talked about the building blocks for business school: faculty, infrastructure, students, curriculum, recruiting, etc. And then on the top, it was a pyramid, with a little thing saying leading business school in India. And so I showed it to Rajat, and he's like, this is great, but this is the consultant's version of building a business school. We actually need to go and do this. So once again, I trembled, and I was like, I had no idea what to do. And the challenge was, whenever you talk about business schools in the world, people say, there has been no leading educational institution built in the world in the last 50 years. So when you talk to people about building an educational institution, they say you need a brand, and you need alumni, and you need an endowment. All of those come with time. That doesn't really give you a blueprint of how you build a school. So I think we were, what I'm most proud of, obviously the school is doing extremely well, have high qualified students like you here, but we've actually put in place a blueprint for how educational institutions can be built globally, not just in India. So I interviewed about 200 faculty members globally, talked to them about what it would take to come to India, what it would mean how do you create an innovative curriculum at the ISB, and some of the initial curriculum design has actually come out of that. We focused on a one-year program, which you're all aware of, because we wanted to get people with experience. We focused on 6-week courses because we wanted to get the core curriculum done quickly and then focus on the softer skills. And we also wanted to get a number of faculty from abroad to come and teach. And so we wanted to keep the modules short enough so that people could come teach here for a semester or a 6-week course and then go back. And that actually led to what we believe are the strong elements of differentiation for the school: a world-class curriculum being taught by a world-class faculty, focusing on students with experience, not necessarily people who are freshers out of undergrad. I focused on the layout of the school, so I actually I spoke to the people who built out the buildings at Harvard Business School in Wharton. I figured out how large each individual student room should be, and what the housing, how large student accommodation should be, what the costing for that would be. The infrastructure is nice here, and the reason for that is that in '96, when you talk to people about coming to India, and you talk to people about coming to Hyderabad, they said we'd only come here if the infrastructure is great. And so this school has a bit of a Four Seasons feel to it, because for those very reasons, is that people would only come if the infrastructure was world class. The initial naming of the school was around, the term we came up with was Indian Business School. And then Anil Ambani in one of the board meetings said the short form for that is IBS, which might be Indian bullshit. So let's go back and go to Indian School of Business, and that's why it was ISB as opposed to IBS. So it's obviously it's a leading school, and there are many bigger and better things which are going to come for the school. What are my takeaways from these two initiatives, right? Which I just talked about. Firstly, my motivations for doing this. I think in India, and generally as Indians, we lack pride in our country, and we lack pride in India. And I think we need more world-class institutions and symbols we can look at and point to, which are created by India, and therefore increase our self-pride and pride as a nation. It could be historically that we were ruled by the British. It could be historically that we were aping the West. But even today, we focus more on what is wrong with the country versus what is right. And I strongly believe that creating symbols and institutions which create national pride is something we need to work on. There's still a role for, obviously, poverty reduction, healthcare improvement, education for the masses. Don't take me wrong, that is required, but those are longer-term initiatives. In the short term, we need initiatives which will catalyze self-pride. The ISB is one of those initiatives. I think sports is another way to do that. In the modern world, people don't go to war, they play sports. And I think by being number one in sports is a way by which you increase your nation's pride. The only two people who can raise the Indian flag on foreign soil, one is the President of India, the other is an athlete who's won a gold medal at the Olympics. I also got involved in these initiatives for selfish reasons. I was a typical professional services guy from banking and consulting. had never done anything real in my life. And so for me, this gave me a flavor of organizational building. I got addicted to it. It gave me a flavor of something which is very tangible and real when you put effort in. And I built a very strong network and business relationships from that. And I think it's not just a matter of getting involved with a number of initiatives. I picked a few which I had a lot of passion for, where I enjoyed doing the work. And so, being able to carve out time for these nonprofit initiatives, given we all have significant work and family commitments, is difficult. And one of the questions I often get asked is, how do you balance your commitments with the nonprofit work you're doing? And my take on this is that when you look at time management, when you look how people talk about time management, they historically have said focus on work and family. Then it became work, family, and self, right? So you do yoga, you do meditation to make sure you're powered for the next day. And I think we need to add nonprofit or social causes as the fourth leg to that. You need to carve out time where you're dedicating, whether it's a couple of hours a week, where you're focusing on initiatives which you're passionate about. And they will pay back significantly, both in your workplace as well as in terms of satisfaction. We all live in sort of this, we all work in very competitive environments. The good thing about nonprofit causes is there's more work to be done than there are people around. And so your ability to step up and take more responsibility, especially as young graduates, is immense. And I would urge you all to pick one or two causes which you're very passionate about and then put your heart and soul into them. It doesn't come at the expense of work. It doesn't come at the expense of family. It's actually a treat to them. So maybe just in conclusion, I leave you with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi once said, you must be the change you want to see in the world. If I had to leave you with one thought, it would be the modern day version of that, which is stop bitching and start doing. Thank you.